We are living in tumultuous times, that's certain. Who would have thought that teachers across the country would be delivering instruction remotely? But within the tumult is opportunity, because issues of race, gender, identity, class, and equity are now part of the conversation for mainstream culture. But how do you teach these issues in your own classes? When we conceived of a reader's guide to writing, we were also thinking of how fellow teachers might want to address issues of race, gender, identity, class, and equity. So we made up 3 principles that govern our own teaching and form a backbone to the book. These issues belong in college classrooms. We cannot elide these issues, and they are too important to not address. They need to be handled responsibly so as to create discussions that are supported by evidence and logic. Discussions about race, gender, identity, class, and equity are a natural part of the conversation about content, not extraneous to it. This one may need a little bit more of an explanation. For instance, if one were teaching about architecture and urban planning using 2.4.A, the forged city, your conversation in class could revolve around the development of suburbia, city centers, architectural styles, the use of city space, and so forth. However, it could and probably should include how the development of the interstate highway system aided suburban development and simultaneously decimated neighborhoods of color. So how does a reader's guide help you? In 3 primary ways. One is through the interesting wide-open readings on a variety of topics. 2, with plenty of extension activities and links to articles and presentations that really expand the gamut of what you can do with this material. And then 3, discussion questions that also extend the conversation and ask students to think about these issues on a deeper level. So if we take a look at the forged city, the content itself addresses who controls the space. The classroom teaching and extension activities allow for investigation of what makes a city, principles to better cities, but it also links to articles and videos about how highways erect American cities, segregation in urban planning, and poverty on Skid Row in Los Angeles. Discussion questions provide a framework for analysis, but also exploration of issues, as in number 4, in terms of urban inequality. Essays like Locking Up the Population address race, class, and gender head-on while exploring the prison industrial complex. Important in-text links to the Central Park 5 or the Registry of Exonerations add additional depth. And the teaching resources do not shy away from horrific events like George Floyd's murder. But they also include constructive TED Talks about policing for the 21st century. These things are part of the national conversation, and they should be talked about. Other essays like In Defense of Video Games may look primarily at the surprising number of skills that players learn when they play. It may look at the changing demographics of video game players or the condemnation of such players in the popular press. However, the teaching resources expand the scope of the essay to include material on sexism and racial representation in video games and in the industry itself. So many of the readings in a reader's guide to writing can be adapted, used, and have teaching resources for expanding the conversation beyond the borders of the essay itself. Class discussions can naturally segue from the content itself to how issues of race, gender, identity, class, and equity inform that content.